How's it going, guys? So coming into this video, I wanted to talk about how fantastic this lens is. And while it is a great lens, I realize that I cannot convince people to buy this lens. So today I want to talk about the 50mm G Master f1.2. Specifically, how great this lens is, why I think this lens is overkill, and some alternative options that doesn't need you to sell your car. So this G Master lens came out in April 2021. This was the first time that we were getting an f1.2 aperture on a native Sony E-mount lens. And as time went by, this was regarded as a very good lens, if not great lens. This lens has the latest XD linear autofocus that a lot of newer lenses are starting to incorporate, especially lenses such as the G series and the G Master series. It also has 11 rounded aperture blades, a 72mm filter thread, a weight of 1.7 pounds or 778 grams, and some buttons and rings on the exterior of the lens. When I put this lens on my camera, the first thing I noticed was the weight and the size of this prime lens, along with the G emblem on the side signifying the prestigious quality that you're about to witness. Or maybe it just stands for, gee, this is a lot of money. Technically, my first prime was a 30mm Sigma crop sensor lens, which is the equivalent to 52.5 to be exact. And this puts me at the spot most people starting off with a camera come across, and that is the spectacular nifty 50, or the starter lens into primes. The reason most camera users consider buying this focal length is because it's said to be the lens that best approximates human visual perspective. In other words, is the closest thing to what our eyes can see. While this is a fantastic focal length to start on, you should definitely acquire your own taste, and if you can test out all focal lengths, I would highly recommend you so you can see what works for you. Typically starting off with a 24-70 and 70-200 would be my choice to find your sweet spot of favorite focal lengths. Then once you have tested the wide range that you have with those two lenses, you're able to see what fits your style and your needs. And then you can buy the prime lenses that have wider apertures if that's something that you're interested in. At f1.2, this 50mm gives you the shallowest depth of field, and this G Master comes with the best looking bokeh in my opinion. Now, is bokeh the most important thing to an image? Probably not, but it is important to at least mention it to you. I've had the privilege of using this lens in different photo shoots, and the results are always tack sharp and dreamlike at the shallowest depth. My favorite part about this lens is probably the autofocus, and you won't come away disappointed with this lens. Since it's a native Sony glass, you know you're getting the best results possible. On a typical shoot, I usually might get a few autofocus shots out of 300 shots, so you know you're getting the best performance that you can. While it is important to have a lens that could perform well with autofocus, most Sony cameras come with great chips that already give you outstanding performance, so you only really notice the drop off with certain third-party manufacturers. Again, this shouldn't stray you away from third-party, but it's just something to note that of course Sony native lenses will tend to be better than third-party, unless it's Sigma. They're right there. This lens tends to be the first lens I put on my camera on any typical portrait shoot, as you get great photos right out the door. When it comes to video, we get the same results with autofocus. But I've noticed over time, I don't actually like to shoot at the shallowest depth of field, and much rather would opt for an f2 or an f4, as I want more in focus in my shot. As you can see, vignette improves from 1.2 to f2, and sharpness is mostly sharp, but does improve slightly the higher the f-stop. One of my favorite features that came with the introduction to the A7 IV was breathing compensation, but as of now, only specific lenses have this feature. Breathing compensation is a huge help to videographers because your lens doesn't look like it's changing focal lengths when you're changing focus. All Sony G Master lenses I've tried and tested have relatively bad focus breathing, and this feature was definitely needed, especially for those lenses. I do wish these features would have been available to previous cameras, but maybe that's just asking for too much. Plus, how are they going to get us to spend all the money to buy the newer cameras? So I kind of understand it. Kind of wish they would just put them in the older cameras. A7 III, probably not getting it. A7S III, probably not getting it. But I definitely use this lens a lot to show product shots or B-roll footage in my videos. The shallowest depth mixed with my A7 IV, which has a crop mode, can punch in and give me a near like macro shot. Again, not macro, but near macro. Not macro. Now I really do like this lens, and because I already made the purchase, well, I won't be selling it anytime soon, but this lens is priced at 2,000 buckaroos, and if that wasn't enough to steer you away, Sony just dropped the 50mm f1.4, and that comes in at 1,300 or around there, which saves you a good amount of money, enough to go watch Oppenheimer 100 times, or grab coffee 400 times. I actually don't know if my math is mathing up, but you get the point. You save a lot of money. And now, bringing this lens up at the price and near similar quality, how can you justify the 1.2 version over the 1.4? You just can't. Only things I've seen from this f1.4 version is maybe a bit of color fringing, but that never hurt anyone from taking a great photo. So if you truly wanted the best value lens for Sony cameras, this new 1.4 would have to be my choice for you to get. This next lens now would be the best budget 50mm I'd recommend, and that's the 55mm Zeiss 1.8. I know it's not a 50mm, but it's very close and will give you nearly the same identical focal length as a 50. If you look for a used one, you can find one around $400 to $500, maybe cheaper. And it's so small, you can fit it inside your pant pockets. And for being an old lens, it still keeps up, if not beats other third-party lenses in its class. Up on the screen, I'll put some sample photos of what this lens can do. If I still had this lens, I'd compare it to my 1.2 G Master. There definitely is some other notable lenses when you think of third parties, such as Sigma 50mm 1.4, but the new DGDN version, or actually that's the only one I can think of that has great quality. But comment down below, let me know if there's another manufacturer, third party, that provides great quality in this focal range, and I will just have to do my homework better. These are the lenses that I have tried and tested, so I know that I can give my opinion on them. Overall, my 50mm 1.2 is a great lens, and if you can get a used one at a fair price and you want the best of the best, then buy this lens. But I just can't wrap my head around persuading someone to buy it. And truly, if I waited long enough, I would have had the f1.4, and no regrets. The main reason I wanted to buy a 50mm was to pair it with my 24mm G Master lens, which is a great lens, and I actually traded that lens for a 35mm. No money changed hands, just an even trade, and now that's my portrait combo as a 35 and a 50. So if you'd like a video on that, I can show you what that versatility looks like. I'd say the only way I'd sell this lens is if Sony made a 85 1.2 G Master, but we probably won't. I do appreciate you watching to the end. Remember that these are just my opinions, and I understand that not everyone will agree with me, and that's okay. I think it's important to have discourse in the community, so go out and shoot something meaningful. Let me know if there's another third-party manufacturer. I know there's different third-party manufacturers out there that do provide really great quality. I'm just trying to give you, from my perspective, what I have tried and tested, and give you my thoughts on. So again, I appreciate you coming out, seeing the video, and laters.